What's up, everybody? Once again, it is I, James, coming to you from the Nerdy Musings podcast studio. I am super excited to be joined today by Mr. Yevgeny Sokolov. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, James. Nice to be here, really. Thanks so
I'm
much.
glad to hear it, man. That's great, and I'm happy to have you here. We both have Wolverine-related shirts on. The Death of
Yes,
Wolverine shirt. Did you read that run, the Death of Wolverine
Mhm.
run?
I can't say that I have. No.
Yeah, there was some crazy art on there. I follow a lot of art, so I'm one of those guys where people ask me like, "Oh, what storylines do you like?" I'm like, "Bro, I'm just looking at the art."
Yeah, and that's the thing about me getting into comics. I pick up history of comics. I think from Rob Liefeld on his podcast.
Oh, there you go.
That's what I'm learning the all the history from the back that I missed.
You're a
Um,
fellow Robservations fan? Me too.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I get.
actually that was quite a bit of the inspiration to start this podcast.
Oh yeah.
I think it was one of those things where his passion really comes across and it got me motivated and I'm like, "Oh, I could
It-
do
It's
this too."
it is. It's infectious, really.
Yeah. So you got into comics a little bit later and you're kind of playing a little bit of catch up as far as history and all these things. That's kind of cool
Yes.
because you get to discover all of this when you have like unlimited content to go back and look at now.
I do, and it's been kind of like consuming so quickly, trying to catch up here and there. And I mean, I bought the entire series of books. Went on eBay and just like, I need Hellboy. I love Hellboy,
Oh
love the
yeah.
movies. As I need to catch up, I need to read all the books. So I bought all the books on there, all the tape paperback, and then I went ahead and just recently got all the series of Batman books that was done by Sean Gordon Murphy. I
Oh
just
yeah.
enjoyed the art so much. And he's like, you know what? The story is good. I'm gonna go ahead and try to get all those. And
Yeah, it's
a lot of catching up. Yeah.
Sean Gordon Murphy. He's one of those. He's kind of, I put him in the same category as like Daniel Warren Johnson. Those guys are out there. They're doing their own stories. They're
Yes.
penciling, inking, writing. It's so inspiring to see them like just
Yeah.
going into it and doing what they love.
Yeah. And Warren Johnson just got his Wolverine 400, like a 10-page story, one shot done. And I have no idea
Yeah.
where to pick that up. So I wish I'd have that cover. But
Yeah, the cover is already going on eBay for a very hefty premium. Apparently, from what I heard, a lot of shops kind of slept on it and didn't order enough. And so I guess his cover wasn't even like a super hard variant to get. Like you didn't
mhm,
have to order a ton of the book to get that cover, but they
yeah.
just didn't order. Apparently, they didn't order even enough to get it. So a lot of shops only had a handful and they went right away. And now everybody's, you know, suffering
Yeah.
and having to go pay the eBay premium.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to stay away from it, but at one point I'm gonna have to read that story. Yeah. I hope I
Definitely.
get my hands on it somewhere.
So, in this quest to discover all the comic greatness that you're on right now, what are some big standouts for you? You already mentioned, Sean Gordon Murphy on Batman and everything. Like, as far as coming from the perspective of an artist, whose stuff really gets you going and just motivates the heck out of you right now?
Um, storyline. Of course, I think the absolute Batman has a really fun storyline going on. I know sometimes you could say, oh, it's just another you know story of Batman just taken from a different point of view, and yeah, different. Yeah, maybe it's Earth something else different, sure,
Yeah.
but it has a really creative way of kind of putting the bad guys as his friends and finding a different perspective into how all these things happen. That's a storyline, but art, I think some of my favorite artworks or like recent comics, the art was the Batman, what was it, Gargoyle of Gotham, has
Oh,
really
yeah.
fun interiors. I love the interiors in that book. And also, I finished collecting the entire story of precious metals
Yep.
um,
With
by
Great
yeah, and
Capullo artwork on there.
Ian, no, Ian Bertram.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of
Yeah.
a different. I'm thinking of death metal. I'm thinking
Oh,
of the
death metal.
DC death
Gotcha.
metal. Yeah.
Yeah, this was the precious metals. That's the story that was a prequel to Little Bird.
Oh,
Apparently,
okay.
it was an award-winning book. For some reason, that art, like Ian Bertram's work, really speaks to me because I think it took me back to the old Russian science fiction cartoons that I used to watch when I
Gotcha.
was little, and
Okay.
it really kind of touched the nostalgia. You know,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that one out. I'm not familiar with that one.
check it out; it's
Sounds
great. Yeah,
sounds like judging by your art and some of the things you've told me, I have a feeling I'm gonna like it. So
it's
I'll
different.
definitely.
It's different than my art, definitely.
Yeah.
If you ever seen Ian Bertram's work, it's different work, different real. It's I don't know. You can say expressive realism.
Okay.
It has a certain style.
Nice.
Yeah.
So let's backtrack a little bit and talk about your start in the art world. I understand that you were more somebody exploring the fine arts,
Yes.
and comics kind of crept its way in there over time. And looking at you, you're a pretty big dude. So tell me about this basketball career that almost happened as well.
Yeah. Almost. Yeah. Almost. Well, when I came to the United States at 16 and with dreams of basketball, basically, but went to school in Florida, over in Melbourne. If anyone knows Florida Air Academy, that's where I played basketball. I went to school. There was boarding school, so it was on campus all the time. We had dorms. It was all boys school, military academy, Air Force, ROTC. And we went on and lost only 7 games in my 3 years there playing.
Wow.
In the senior year, we didn't lose any. We went 33-0, and so got recruited early to play Arkansas State. At Arkansas State, they're Red Wolves now, but used to be Indians. So I signed with them and played 4 years there. Unfortunately, freshman year hurt my back really bad.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
and it was
it's
it
one of
was
those
bad.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it was happened in the game, so it wasn't as much of a salt on the wound because most people getting bad injury in practice. I got a horrible injury in the game, so it's kind of justified. Okay, you know what? At least I was in the game. I heard it that way. But my goodness, I could thank goodness for chiropractors. It might got my back straight back to normal. I didn't have to have surgery.
Oh, that's good.
Um, and I got to play the rest of the 3 years. So it never really nudged at me afterwards. So in the sophomore year, I actually had a better year than the freshman year. As
Maybe
careers
that's
go,
I was gonna say maybe that was your superhero origin story. You get the back injury, chiropractor does his magic, and then you play
yeah,
better the next season.
that might have, it could have been,
They never know.
yeah. Then kind of fizzled out. His career fizzled out, and didn't have a chance to sign with the contract over in Sweden, and I turned it down because I had a semester of school left, and the contract was terrible. So I decided to go ahead and stay in school, finish my last semester of school, which is Arkansas State. For athletics, if you finish 4 years of play, they'll pay for your finish your bachelor's, which of course you have to work on campus. But anyway, I finished my career there, and I was studying fine art the whole time. And I learned quite a bit about different mediums and approaches. But I got my major was in drawing, and a minor in ceramics.
Nice. With the mug, the custom mug right there for us.
That's right. But drawing was the first thing, and watercolors was a thing I love doing as well. I did some oil painting for a while as well, and kind of went away from the oils after a while. Just kind of it's just such a long process
I was
medium.
gonna say, you got tired of waiting for everything to dry?
Yeah, and even though you can use mediums, that kind of they make that you can dry in 2 days. Sure, but it's the whole process and the fumes and stuff from the turpentine and all. I was like, I don't want to mess with it. Um, and I was like, at some point I got an iPad, a iPad Pro, and I was like, ooh, Procreate. Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I can actually start making comics now. I can do my own comic. Not, not that I already was good at it. It was about a decade ago, I think. And I was looking at my art back then, I was like, there's no way that I
Yeah.
could do a comic right now because I knew so little about the process. And I guess during COVID, around that time, right before that, since, uh, let's rewind that. After college, I did move to Southeast Missouri with my wife, which we got married that spring. Um, it'll be 19 years this May.
Oh,
Um,
congratulations, man. That's
thank you.
awesome. My wife and
Thanks.
I just celebrated our 21st wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations, 21.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes,
We're right
sir.
behind you.
Yeah, you're catching up.
It's, um, I moved to Cape Girardeau there in Southeast Missouri, and then I found a job teaching a smaller town, teaching art. And of course, coaching basketball came with it. Being assistant and all that. But now I've been teaching art here in small town for a long time now. This 19 years, basically. Right after we got married, that summer we moved here.
Okay.
And she's been teaching special education elementary. And during that whole time, all I've been doing is fine arts, painting, watercolor, drawing, portraits, things like that. And sometimes I still do those things. Um, and I have a good rapport with the gallery over in Jonesboro and where I went to college. So every once in a while, I'll do commissions and realism and things like that. But comics have become a big part of what I wanted to do. I kind of put the eggs in that one basket sort of thing. In 2021, I started my first inking.
That's amazing. So
But yeah,
you pretty late in the game then, huh?
pretty late. Yeah.
Like
So
all things considered, like pretty new to comics and new to dabbling in comic art.
yeah, about 30, I think I was 38 when I started actually being serious about comics. And what I started was I started drawing bodybuilders. Like
Okay.
you see right over there, right?
Yep, yep.
Um, and I started drawing bodybuilders and kind of was like, I love working out, lifting, and yeah, I'm gonna start drawing a serious. As a fine artist, you do series of works. So I decided to do a series of bodybuilders, and here goes Arnold, here goes this and this and this, and um, kind of rolled into one of those things. And COVID hit, and we were at home every day because schools were closed. And I think I was drawing a bodybuilder every day for
Yeah.
for like weeks. Um, so I stacked up a big collection. I kind of learned muscles and not only male bodybuilders, I drew female bodybuilders, so I can draw, female poses easier too. So I knew the structure that way. And and then it kind of rolled into, I discovered David Finch's channel on
Oh,
YouTube.
such a
So
resource, man. I would have killed for that resource when I was a kid.
I know I was missing. If he was doing this, early 2000s, I'll probably be doing comics for 20 years now.
Yeah.
Um, but it was kind of one of those things that give me a push to seriously rethink if I really want to do this. And he give you the kind of the tools and weapons to really, with his small tutorials, if you use that in a real way, do it every day.
Yeah.
Spend an hour before you start doing a major piece. The big drawing. Spend time doing small little sketches. Do the small little gestural movement. Learn how to do the. And once I started doing those, and I already kind of knew the muscle structure better from drawing bodybuilders, putting it all together was easier. And doing fine arts for years, I did the still lives and portraits and drawing all the other things I already done. Yeah,
Yeah.
everyday stuff. So it kind of came to a point right there. I was like, do it, start doing this.
So, would you say that with your career in fine art, like I would imagine that you have a base foundation, even though it's not exactly specifically related to the type of art you're doing for comics. Like you're still able to visualize and have the picture of something in your head, like the foundation for seeing form in three-dimensional space and stuff. That has to maybe give you a little bit of a leg up. Now it's just a matter of like translating it and channeling it towards the comic book style of art.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think everyone should do some sort of fine arts. Even he was like even Liefeld was talking about. He would go to classes in the evening, not even go to school, but go to classes that were doing live figure drawing, and
Yep.
even learn to do those things. But the biggest thing that helped me is that I learned perspective early, very early. So I knew the one, the two, the 3 point perspectives, and I knew how to apply them really well. So once I've gotten better at visualizing how I place the pose or what I'm going to have in this scene, it kind of all became much easier and faster.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's funny. People don't realize, like, I'm guilty of this too. I was guilty of this too. Like, we don't want to draw backgrounds a lot of times when we're a comic book person. We want to draw the cool muscular figure and all these different poses and things, and then I'll put the background in later and this and that. But you don't realize how much having that understanding of how perspective works, like knowing how perspective works and being able to draw buildings and things, when you start to understand the primitive forms of the figure, and then you combine that with your knowledge of building drawing and the perspective for that, you start to be able to turn the figure and understand, because like everybody draws the pose, the three-quarter pose like this, and they show way too much of this shoulder when
yeah,
really it would be hidden. And that's all just simple. If you understand how to draw basic
yeah,
perspective, you would know when I'm turned this way, this starts, you're not going to see that part, you
yeah,
know? So I think a lot of artists neglect that, and I came onto it way too late in the game. Like it was like a revolutionary thing for me when I made that correlation. It's like, oh, as my perspective drawing is getting better, my figure drawing is getting better.
yeah, yeah. It does. It does help.
Yeah.
It all kind of makes an artist a lot better, even though they don't realize it at first. But I tell my students in school that I teach every day, I was like, perspective is everywhere. It's anything you draw, unless you're gonna become a certain type of abstract artist that doesn't have to require perspective, then I understand. But if you are going to be a realistic artist and use perspective and draw like real things, you need to learn it. And but besides that, if you could learn perspective, but if you can't draw eyes in a
Yeah.
certain distance between them correctly, you might have other problems.
Yeah, perspective really comes into play, like placing the figure and making it look like it's actually grounded and all these different things. I think for people, perspective, the reason we avoid it a lot of times is because learning perspective drawing, I think, feels too much like learning math to
Mhm.
people or something. It's like too technical, and it's not cool right away. Drawing
Yeah,
it,
you're right.
you draw an awesome muscular figure, like you feel that dopamine hit right away, right?
You're like, oh yeah.
You
Yeah,
draw a
just like
cool,
that the last Spawn idea. I was like, oh yeah, I want
dude.
to start
That not
drawing
only
him.
the not only the spawn you did, but that Lobo piece
Oh
was amazing.
yeah, can't show it here today, but it's already shipped out.
Oh, congratulations! That's awesome,
Thanks,
man.
thank you.
So,
But the Spawn is here.
oh, good to know. So, if it's still here at the time the podcast airs, hit him up, get the spawn. Um, so I was gonna take it back to more, because when you went to college, you got into
Mhm.
fine arts and things while you were playing basketball. Did you have a love of art when you were younger? Has this been something that was in your mind, just as
Yeah,
far as being creative and having those artistic uh, aspirations? Is that something that occurred when you were a child?
I actually remember myself in kindergarten at a table, right? I think it was lunch or whatever we were having. I'll sit there with the open notebook drawing, because that's what I kind of really enjoyed doing. Yeah, I think I drew since I was in kindergarten, and I couldn't stop it. Um, and I loved it, and my parents encouraged it. So, but I still had to do my studies of the other stuff, the math and all that, which math I hated at first.
Yeah.
Loved it in the end, though. My brother drilled it into me, and I
It's
finally
funny.
figured out how to learn it.
It's funny. I was the same. Like I never liked math, but I ended up being good at it. It's
Yeah,
like, why am I good at this? Like I
but
don't enjoy this, but I got good at it.
it's one of those things that if you're not a lazy person, you're gonna figure out the way to know the math is remember remember these certain formulas, know how to
Yep,
apply them, and they go from there. You'll have a way to apply them at some point, and that's all the math is about, really.
exactly.
Um,
And so
you
much
gotta
of
love the
drawing,
numbers.
so much of drawing is math
It
because
is.
you are constantly making comparisons and uh, when this angle changes, how does the width of this change, and like, your correlations between certain landmarks on the body and
Yeah,
it really does apply in its own way
it is. It
to
is.
drawing anything, right?
I agree. I did a lot of learning of kind of it's called. He called it. This artist called John um, Casal. He I bought a DVD of his, but he called it relative proportions. Is when
Yeah,
you start with one part, and then in relative to that part, where is this gonna go and this gonna go? Kind of build it that way. But he's a fine artist, drawing portraits and painting portraits. And
yeah,
but man, I learned a lot from that, just that application. It's
yeah.
math. There's a lot of
It
it is math.
really
It's building.
is.
It's building. Yeah, building things like
Yeah.
that.
So creative from kindergarten on, we'll say. You get the fine arts, you have the basketball. Then we're getting into comics kind of late in the game, and we're transitioning into the comic style of artwork, falling in love with different artists' work and everything. And you're already very good. So not to boost your ego, but already you've applied. Yeah, the head is getting too big for the camera. Um, he's 6'10", by the way, guys. You thought I was big, 6'5". He's 6'10". And now the head is blowing up. But no, the art, your comic style art is already pro quality, and now
Appreciate it.
the hardest transition in my opinion, and I know you've probably started working on this, sequential art and storytelling. How is your journey into that going? How's that been, what have you
It's
been studying to be able to do the sequentials and everything? You mentioned Hellboy. If you're looking at
yeah,
Magnola stuff, you can see
yeah.
some really great sequential art and storytelling and
He
pacing and
is.
everything else, right?
You're right. You're right. Mignola is I don't know how to pronounce him. Mignola or Mignola. How's everyone pronouncing his name?
Everybody says it both ways.
This okay, but he's a legend in the business, and storytelling, really narrative things like this, and going back to years and years, decades, and studying him. Yeah, I always look. How's he pacing this? How's he placing? And all the large shadows and
How
blobs of
he's
shapes, and
how
what
he's
is he?
using that for the
Yeah,
composition, right? How he's framing things with the shadows and everything.
exactly. And what is he using for movement? Even though his shapes are most of the time he more or less blocky, and but he still has a quite a bit of movement and energy in his pages. Other things I look at is I actually have Pinterest, who I used to tell my wife, that's just a way of you know wife telling the husband, we need to do this project.
Yep.
Um, but now I've been using it for years now. That I just pin a bunch of different things there for just a reference to see, it will inspire something, and to draw something. But a lot of times I use it for collecting their costumes. But I have a bunch of pages, like sequential art pages there, just so I can look at this, the kind of really creative ones to see what kind of energy and movement, like Jim Lee's pages. There's so many different pages from different artists, and even Sean Gordon Murphy, he's got so much energy in his pages. I like to look at those just to see how, where, and what to do. When I practice my pages, just I have a few that I have. Um, some of them just the top of my head, and I do little roughs. It's like small thumbnail roughs to lay it out. And if it looks kind of fun and the movement from this one to this one, you can travel well. That's what I kind of look at. And but I don't have a specific artist that I constantly go back to. I like
Yeah.
to look if I like the page when I see it on the screen. I'm just like, I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna look at this later.
Yeah,
So
what catches you're seeing what catches your attention, and you're going, okay, well, how can I use this? It
yeah,
doesn't matter so much what artist it is. It's like, well, can I take something from this and put it into my own
yeah,
work, right?
exactly. Yeah.
So for your sequential stuff, are you working off of samples you can get online as far as scripts or anything? Or are you writing your own stuff to make samples of? How are you approaching that? Because I know a lot of people do it different ways. Some people will even just take a comic and redo a few pages in their own style and then their own layouts and everything. Some people get like a sample script from Marvel or DC, like there's plenty of them out there.
Mhm.
How are you approaching that? And because I know, and after this we'll talk about like you're going on this journey, the struggle. When are one of the publishers going to notice me? How am I going to get work with them? That kind of everybody, most aspiring artists have that goal of working for Marvel or DC one day. But as far as making your samples sequential pages, how are you approaching this?
Um, that's a great question. Mm, I actually have done some pages as one specific page. I just did it for fun. There was no script or anything like that. I just kind of created a little story, and I love doing that. And I did another one that I just kind of thought of this little story and about kind of a barbarian kind of guy traveling through, going home after this big war. Um, anyway, that's the kind of a thing I had going. But I did a couple of pages where I went on Facebook, or I'm not sure. I think it was Facebook group somewhere. I was like, anybody want to give me their sample page from their comic book that I can practice? I did a couple of pages like that. And then I got busy again with commission work and kind of put that on hold again. But right now, speaking of writing, I am writing my own story, kind of still early. I mean, early is a 30-page first issue written, but I'm editing it left and right kind of thing. Still got
Nice.
a lot of dialogue to work on, and kind of slide it into uh second book already, kind of second issue a little bit. And I have started doing layouts for it, so that's a big good practice here, like a big aspect to address when you're practicing something, is that create your own. And this is what I heard that a lot of comic book companies look for, if you can create something of your own.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I'm hearing a lot of different things as far as like how people are breaking in nowadays, and how, because it's very different than back in the day. Back in the day, you would go and you would sit at a convention and try to get in line to talk to an editor, and now I don't even think the editors handle any of that. I heard they have like talent scouts or talent agents or whatever that you talk
Yeah.
to, and it's just very different. And with the ability for people to see your work online, and you're competing with hundreds of thousands of other amazing artists whose stuff's online, like the game has changed. So I've heard some people saying like you said, having your own project and showing you can do the work, and you've actually published something will get the attention. And then I've heard people say, well, no, you can't do that. You gotta break in first, become a known name, and then do your own project, because then it'll be more successful. So there's like all these different paths you can take, right?
It is there. Yeah, there are different paths, and I know I've been doing a lot of, cover work type, splash pages, a lot of commissions are those, they're illustrations, and I love telling stories in them. But doing sequential pages is one of those things, kind of like Rob Liefeld said in one of his, many of them probably. He said, you gotta love doing the work of sequential art to be a sequential artist, to be a real comic book artist. I mean, most, if not all of them, professional artists that today or in the past, they've done sequential pages. They've done sequential art
Yes.
besides the covers. Covers come
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah,
And
you have a
I'm happy.
few you have like a few like rare individuals who's like pretty much only do covers and have never like even done a sequential story, and that's those are like the outliers, right?
Yeah,
like you're saying, it's more common that you get started in the getting on a book doing sequential pages, and then okay, here's a cover. All right, here's another cover. Then you become the guy that's known for the variant covers that everybody wants, and go from there, right?
yeah, yeah. I've seen that. I've seen that, and that's a completely fine if that's what you want to do. I mean, this I'm sure there's some have ultimate goal is just to do covers for DC, all the books in DC, all the
Yeah.
books in Marvel, and for me personally, I'd like to tell a story. I'd like to draw the sequential. I like illustrating um more. When I do covers, I like them to tell a story when you're looking at it. Then it's just one off, like, okay, there's a face of the protagonist screaming or spitting out blood or cutting something. I'd like to actually look at it and to be related to the actual story you're about to read. So there is a little bit of some kind of those Easter eggs in there. So
Yeah.
sequential pages are important. They really build the artist a little bit. I think a little stronger.
Now, have you started developing a portfolio to show around? Like, obviously, you have a lot of commission pieces you could include in a portfolio. Are you putting something together to be able to send to publishers or show publishers as far as a combination of your work with sequential pages and pinups and everything else?
I do need more sequential pages before I start sending any of my work, but I do have pretty much all my pieces have been scanned that I've done, all the commissions, and so I have them all. It's just I need to select which ones, and the probably 24, 25, some 23 pieces that I have that would be included, and some sequential pieces I've done back in 23, I think. And then I look back and at 22 or somewhere when I tried to do this this little story, I was like, what am I was thinking?
Yeah.
Burn pile. Um, so yeah, a lot can change in 3 years of doing comic art every single day. So and that's the one advice that a lot of people ask is like, well, how can I improve? I get a message on Instagram sometimes, and from aspiring artists or young artists, and I'll be like, you got to put in the work. You got to draw every day, every day. Everybody will tell you that. If you want to break in, if you want to get good at it, you got to do it every day.
Yeah, and consistently, right?
Hmm.
Every day, day in, day out, week in, week out. Like, even
Yes.
if it's, I think we get this thing in our head where if we can't commit like a full 30 minutes or an hour to it, oh, I just won't do it. It's like, no, draw every day, even if that means you have 10 minutes to do a little gesture drawing or something. Like, it's the compound effect. It's going to add up over time if you keep repeating that action consistently. It's just like anything else, you're going to get more out of it if you put more into it. If you have the ability to draw an hour, 2 hours each day, and you're doing that every day, obviously you'll most likely progress a little bit quicker than the guy that only has 5 or 10 minutes to do a little, thumbnail
Yeah.
sketch, and that's all he can do. But he's still going to make progress too, just within his own parameters, I guess.
Yes. Definitely. Yeah. Anything you can do that you know has a certain goal. If you're working towards that goal, and then every single time you sit down and draw for 5, 10, 2, maybe an hour, whatever. 5 minutes to an hour, whatever it is. If it all has the same goal, if you're not just diverting to, draw smiley face, then it's just different story. But if you keep on, like you said, those gesture drawings, the little movement drawings, the little tiny thumbnails, draw as many as you can, because in the end, you can always go back to them and say, okay, this one worked, this one didn't work. This one looks actually kind of good. I should try to draw it bigger, maybe a little extra details. A lot of times, that's something, that consistency is where it's going to get you. Consistency. Yeah, consistency
Yes.
is what's going to get you there.
So you are at a point where you're doing a substantial amount of commission work. Like a lot of your pieces that you're posting are pieces that people have commissioned you to do. Um, so you are a professional comic book artist, even though a lot of people for that term might mean, oh, they work for a publisher or whatever. You're getting paid for your work. So how have you how's the reception been on social media and people following you and reaching out for commissions? I mean, it looks like you have no shortage of work to do here lately with that Lobo piece and now this Spawn, and I'm sure there's probably some others in the works. Um,
um,
and
yeah,
it's is that fulfilling for you? Or is it like you're not going to be happy until you're working for one of the big two?
um, honestly, the three is okay too. Um,
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I'll take Dark Horse. I'll take
hey,
Dark Horse. That's fine.
you don't know who I'm referring to as number two.
Oh,
I may not mean Marvel and DC. To me, Image is number two to me.
Image is fantastic, yes, and that's what I like about them, is that you can be writing your own story, drawing your own story. They'll publish that, and you have all
Yeah.
the rights to it. And these days, it's all about that. But commissions are what I call them is my building blocks, and each commission gives me a different thing that I have to do. Sometimes, and that's why sometimes I mean I don't think I've ever turned down a commission. That's because most of the time it gives me a different thing to work on or practice, like rain, drawing rain with ink, and or some other thing. It was like multiple characters fighting, or or just different environment maybe to draw in the background, or anything that kind of gives me a whole different approach. It's giving me a teaching moment. It's giving me a building blocks to when I do run into something in my own book, or start working on some other commission, not commissions, but sequential pieces. I already have built up the kind of muscle memory of drawing this or that. And that's how I really treat all the commissions. I mean, some of them are just, really fun to do.
Yeah.
And so on some of them, there are some kind of monotonous little things. And every art piece has that. You're gonna run into something like, man, this is just boring. I have to paint this every little brick over here. But take a little pride in it and say, hey, how about make it a little more creative in this case?
Yeah.
Just make some of these bricks lighter, darker, or maybe off of some. Find something to make it more fun. And that's how I take every commission. And that, like, for example, that logo wasn't a commission. It was
Gotcha.
something I'd sketched, and I was like, you know what? Oh, I'm gonna do a Lobo piece. I just get inspired sometimes. I heard the actress Jason Momoa got
Yeah,
picked, and I was
yeah.
like, oh, I gotta draw Lobo again.
I did the
So
same thing as when I heard that. I did a little Lobo piece too because I'm like, oh, that's cool. Let's jump on the bandwagon and do some kind of Lobo piece.
there you go. It's just like in Superman too. I had to do a Superman piece. I was just like, oh, new movies coming out. Yeah, I gotta draw it. And then when I was sketching it and I was starting to ink it, and someone approached me on Instagram and said, hey, I'm really interested in it. Keep posting, the progress. I'll let you know. I was like, boom. He's like, I gotta have it. And before I
Nice.
finished thinking it, it was already gone. So I'm okay with that, because a lot of times my personal pieces, to me, is just so low, just so much fun, because I know I'm like, oh, I'm having fun doing this. Like this spawn piece that I recently completed sketching. It's just something I was just like, you know what, out of my top of my head, I'm gonna do this. And then if somebody really likes it and it is available, we'll work on that. I'll sell it.
Now, if somebody does reach out to you for a commission, how does that process go? Do you some people I know will just kind of have a basic idea like, hey, I want this character.
Mhm.
Just do your thing, make it look cool. Are there people that have a little more detail and like, oh, I want this, this, and this, and I want the pose to be this way, and like it? Then you're getting in this thing where you as the artist have to have some creative freedom, but you're also working in a little bit of the confinement of the parameters that they're giving
Yeah.
you. Um, and how do you do that process? Do you like send them thumbnails to look at? Hey, do you like this pose, or is this what you're thinking? Because I know from a little bit of dabbling and working in web design, graphic design way in my past, that when a client comes to you with this idea that only they can see in their brain and they have no artistic talent to be able to put that into reality for you to get a better idea of what they're looking for, it can
Mhm.
be very difficult to fulfill that idea, the picture they have in their mind. So how's that process work for you?
Yeah, and I do a lot of thumbnail sketches, and I do send them. I mean, to my clients, and I do most of the time up to sometimes I end up doing about 20
Okay.
before we figure out. I was like, okay, so now this looks good. Let's let's tweak this. Let's tweak this. And once I tweak it a little bit, and and they're okay with it, when I start on the final piece, I don't ink it, and I actually shoot them photos of slow progress of it every time I do say half an hour to an hour work on it. Um, I'll send them a photo. It's like, okay, is this looking good for you? Is this right? If something needs to be tweaked, there's like, and some clients do, and I'll actually like doing that. In that way, the client is happy with what's going to come out. And
Yeah, I think
most
that's
of the,
I think that's smart. I think
yeah,
even if they weren't being that detailed, that critical, like just doing that just as a general practice is probably smart for any artists that are listening who are doing commissions. Like just because don't take it for granted that you're satisfying. They're paying you good money. You should try to capture something that they're going to be very happy with in the end product.
that's exactly right. And most of the time, a lot of times, like this one Dark Night I did not long ago, actually, it was one in the rain, all gritty, bleeding, and um, scuffed up, and it's like a lot of dark parts and just a lot of rain going down in the picture. Um, he wanted that gritty look, and I did maybe three sketches, and he picked one, and he's like, "I love that. Let's do it." And once I started working, he didn't want to tweak anything. He just enjoyed the process of
Yeah.
sending progress shots. And I was like, "Yeah, I like this. Oh yeah." But yeah, thumbnails like this, just a little
Yeah, yeah.
little
Look at that.
thumbnails like that, and little thumbnails
See,
like
and this
this,
is this is
you
the
know.
beauty of thumbnailing for all the artists listening. Like a thumbnail, like don't be so precious with it, right? Like convey the information, but it's so
Yeah,
you can get it down quick and just give a basic idea of everything for your client.
exactly, exactly right. And some thumbnails, like I go overboard,
Yep.
so and I'll start, drawing slightly bigger, not really a thumbnail, but
Yeah, yeah.
but that's when I start giving slightly larger sketches to where you can see a little more details, like, oh, so this is what the environment is going to look like.
Yep.
But a lot of times it's just a small little you know really really tiny like gesture sketches, like, there, this is what's going to be the pose. Is the pose okay? Then I move into the medium type
Yeah.
sketches where I can see environment a little bit.
Right back to that David Finch gesture
Yes.
video, right? Like doing that thumbnail, getting that right, like finding all the mistakes at that tiny stage before you get too far into it. Or you could just be Jim Lee and go all the way on the page and then erase the whole thing halfway through. Like I'm always impressed by his just freedom to do that when I watch Jim Lee draw in one of his streams and he's just like, to me it looks amazing. He's like, no. It's like erases the whole thing, moves a leg, moves an arm, But that
When I
works for
work,
him.
Yeah, it does work for him. And sometimes find myself doing the same thing when I draw on the big format.
Yeah.
I'll place it as like, you know what, from a thumbnail it might work, but on the big format it's just not working. So I'll start changing things. And
Now you mentioned,
I would have it playing in the background, like Jim Lee sometimes, just
yeah,
seeing
for
him
sure.
draw 5 hour stream, him sitting drawing a
Hang
sequential
out.
page. I'm like, okay,
You're hanging out with him. It's like you're in the old days when the artists were in the studio together.
yes,
Just put him on in
it
the
does
background.
inspire. Yep.
Uh, I was going to ask you because you mentioned earlier the iPad Pro, and how when you were kind of first, thinking about doing some comic stuff, you got that and thought, oh, I've
Mhm.
got this, I can do comics. Does digital play any part in your workflow these days? Do you mess around with any digital sketching? I know some artists, this term keeps coming up on here, tradigital. So traditional combined with digital workflow. Like some
Um,
people like to do the thumbnail and then print it out on the board and then do their finishes there. Like you strike me as is the solo traditional workflow kind of guy. Is my observation correct on that?
it is.
Yeah.
It is. I've done the digital drawings um, just for fun. Most of the time they were like portraits of, I don't know, Dizzy Gillespie that I did.
Right.
Actual portrait of him, or things, or some caricature of some football player. Things that I'll do on iPad. And the last time I touched it was in the Inktober when I was in the house instead of my studio. They're not attached. Um,
Gotcha.
that's in the backyard. I have a 16 by 20
Oh,
shop here.
that's cool,
Um,
man. That's
I
awesome.
love it. It was a selling point. Let's just say it was a selling point in the
There you
house.
go.
Um, but when I was in the house, I was like, I just don't feel like going. It was late at night. I need to figure out a little idea for something for tomorrow's Inktober, which was actually the Spider-Man, but it was the rock and roll one.
Oh yeah,
Not
Spider Punk.
Spider-Punk. That's it.
Yeah,
So I want.
I'm actually friends with Justin Mason who did those books. So
Oh,
I
that's
have I
awesome.
have I have one of his original art pages from Spider Punk back there on my desk right now.
A little jelly.
Just a little
Um,
bit, right?
that's awesome. But yeah,
Yeah.
I did that little prelim on my iPad, and then just I don't remember if I sent it to myself or shared it, airdropped it to my phone, so I have it the next day. And then I just looked at that next day, and everything else traditional. I didn't print it out, try to
Yeah.
do anything. No, I just looked at the gesture that I sketched. I liked the movement, and um, kind of worked from there. And that's the last time I used for. If I do anything on the iPad these days, is I stitch couple of scans together. When I have a 14 by 17 piece that I can't scan all at once, I'll
Yeah.
scan them in halves of them, and then I stitch them in Procreate.
Yeah.
That's about the only thing I use it for anymore.
Now, as we start to kind of wrap things up here towards the end of the podcast, I got to go back to this writing, this creator owned idea you have that it sounds like you've been dabbling with on and on for quite a while. Like if it was me, I would love to see you go on and put like a Kickstarter or some kind of crowdfunding together and just do your own thing and get it out there, because I think you would get a lot of support for it. What are your thoughts on that? Is that a path that you might take if things, if it continues to be a struggle to get noticed by one of the bigger publishers? Do you think you might just say, heck with it, man. I'm just going to get something out because I love comics. I want to put my story out there into the world, and what happens, happens.
I would certainly would love to get it done and drawn out and published. I see a lot of podcasts when they're discussing those self-published things and how to
Yeah,
go about it. And there's so many ins and outs about it, and so many things that you have to worry about. And like Joe Sontag, he's shipping out his book right now, and waiting for my copy. Just imagining the shipping all those things,
that's
and
crazy.
hopefully
Yeah.
hope to God that there is a lot of them to ship. Um,
Yeah.
And if it does work out, I don't mind doing through Kickstarter or through what other avenues there are. Unless the image says, "Hey, you know what? You pitched that idea, said, hey, we would like to pick it up,"
And that's
and then
happened. That's happened to people. There's
that
been
would be.
ones that were like Kickstarters or Indiegogo to where
Mhm.
they simultaneously got published under Image as well. Like,
Yeah, wow.
so that's, that's
And yeah.
definitely a possibility. I think that, I want to say that, I think it's called Moonshine Bigfoot just came out for Image. I believe that was one of those. I think that was like a kickstarted thing, and then it just got published. Issue one just got published by Image. So you just never know, man.
Wow. I'm
Just
gonna
never
look into
know.
that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It
actually
it
really unique, really unique style of artwork, and kind of looks like a really fun story and everything.
yeah. Yeah, and the story I'm writing is more of a is it's not gonna be one shot, two books and done or whatever. It's something I'm thinking of playing out for several issues.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna be a story that'll be done in one to like, 5 books.
One thing I heard, and I don't quote me on this because I may be wrong and somebody's going to fact check me, but somebody was telling me that one of the benefits with Indiegogo, as opposed to Kickstarter, is with Indiegogo, supposedly you can have the option of them fulfilling the orders, and
Oh,
they
wow.
can handle that part of it. I don't know how all of that works.
Hmm.
So when going back to what you were talking about, how, man, I can't imagine having to ship all this stuff
Yeah,
out and fulfill the orders. I
yeah,
think there are some platforms that do offer the option, and I'm sure it comes at a premium. They probably take a bigger
yeah,
percentage of your fees or whatever, but it's a possibility. But now the more I think about it, I think this idea needs to just be developed into a pitch for Image and see what happens. If it doesn't happen, then kickstart it, right? Like if you develop it to the point where you have your pitch and you can send it to them and see, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? They say no.
no, that's it,
All
exactly.
right. Then you
Exactly.
just
Yeah,
then you go, okay, I'm going to Kickstarter, Indiegogo.
yeah. That's done about 18 pages laid out so far, and it's one of those things where for me, I know when I'm gonna start working on actual pages, there'll be some things that that will change, and yeah, that's the process of it. But it's the exciting part of, wow, I'm already laying pages out. It's kind of pushing me
Yeah.
really forward. Yeah, I'm kind of
Well,
enjoying that process.
it sounds like you're doing this for the right reason. It's like Rob says on his podcast, none of us got into comics because we thought we were going to be rich.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, not the richly famous now.
some of those guys it just happened to because they were in the right place at the right time, the way things were. But you're doing it because you love it, and I think ultimately that's what it's all about, right?
It is. It is exactly. Yeah, they're putting a lot of your own things from your own life aspects into the story is what kind of drives most of the storytellers. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's really just a creative mind, and sometimes it's using that creativity and maybe kind of working out some things on the pages from your own stuff. That kind of helps out too.
Yeah. Now, do you have a dream character or book that if you did get on with one of the bigger publishers that you would really love to work on? Because we gotta put it out into the ethos. Like we have to manifest, as they say. Just put it out there. You never know
Yeah.
what'll happen. Do you have some ideas as far as like a character or a title you would love to work on?
Um. Well, Batman is on everyone's list, I'd say.
For sure.
Um, but besides that, I would love to draw X-Men.
Okay, so you're not scared of drawing a team book.
Mm-mm.
Because a lot of people, the idea of having to draw a team and multiple characters, and
Oh yeah,
Rob always talks about that too, like how Todd used to give him a bad time about drawing X-Force. Why do you want to do the team stuff while you're over here measuring all the different faces and doing all the different hairstyles? I just drew a big eye, Spider-Man's giant eye, and a whole entire panel and a
Yeah.
building, and I'm done for the day. And you're over here seeing the spacing between the eye. You just give him a hard
Yeah.
time. Cracks me up. So
I
you're
mean,
not,
I mean,
that doesn't
if
dissuade you.
that does not, no, does not.
Okay.
And draw and spawn, oh yeah.
Oh,
But
dude.
who can draw it then? The way Brad Booth is doing it, I mean, that man is killing it.
Brett Booth
So I
is
mean,
one of the most underappreciated guys that came out of the Image days, in my opinion. He's still
mm,
producing just phenomenal work to this very day.
such y- I was talking to Joe the other day. I was like, I kind of stopped by Spawn. It's like kind of getting a little tired, a little bit of the story is kind of going a little slow and it's kind of
Right.
spinning in a circle. But then I was like, you know what? Forget it. So I just had to go ahead and buy the last three issues. And then I read through them. I was like, you know what? Okay, speaking up. Now we're getting the big and the bad, that there's gonna be big fights and this is
Yeah.
coming and the powers are back. It's like, okay, now I believe in Spawn again. But yeah,
Yeah.
drawing Spawn, either a gunslinger or if I get on Spawn book, that's a dream.
Can retire.
Yeah,
The dreams are fulfilled at that point.
yeah.
Did you hear about that new book that they're doing that Jonathan Glapian's going to be doing the art on?
I saw a little snippet of it. I think it was in the
Sounds interesting.
it does sound interesting. A friend of mine sent me some snippets of it. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is going to be a different level creep. I
Yeah,
like-
especially that style that Glapion's developed,
Mhm.
known as an inker, but now he's developed this really cool art style of his own. So it should be really interesting. Very, very
Yeah,
gritty and like you said, some creepy elements to it.
yeah, it is. It is. And just if anyone interested, this is my style that we're talking about.
Oh
This
yeah.
is that's me right here.
Phenomenal.
And I'm not sure I kind of show this on the screen, but yeah, there it
Oh
is.
yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, that's the way I draw. It's kind of a more realism, but it's
Yeah,
kind of a
realistic,
borrowed.
but you have that grittiness and you have that really awesome way of spotting blacks and everything. I can see the Mignola influence on your work. I can definitely tell you've been studying him. Have you ever looked at his old stuff that he did on some of the X-Men books and things like at very beginning of his career?
I think I may have pinned some of those things that like
It's
images
interesting.
on the internet, but I don't have like actual books from it. No.
You can see some of the tropes of his style even way back then, but his style was vastly different to what it ended up
It
being.
it was, yes.
Yeah, but it's cool to see that the evolution of the artists from when they first broke into, being able to develop their style further and
Hmm.
have their own unique style come out of it because that takes time.
It does. It does. And it's for any artist, I think, but once they reach that and I don't believe that anyone stays in it. I
Yeah,
feel like you'll stay in it for a certain period of time, but then you either improve or you're starting to decline a little bit maybe because your hands getting shaky or something. But I
true.
think every artist is like, I just can't help but improve every single piece I do. It's kind of like pours out of me sometimes like that.
Well, I love it, and I love the fact that I'm getting in on, discovering your work fairly early in your artistic career as far as comics goes, and I just really appreciate you taking the time to be on here today.
Oh no, thank you. I really appreciate you. Thanks,
My
Tim.
pleasure, man. Well, listen, I want to give you a chance to have the spotlight here. Let everybody know where they can find you on the social media, online, and how they can reach out to you if they're looking to get a commission done.
I'm on Instagram. You can probably find me faster. Yevgeny Sokolov art. With underscores in between.
Yep.
But I have a link there. Yeah, it's linked to all of my stuff, so it's just link in bio there. You can go to my website to see what my commission list prices are, and some of the work that I have on there. I'm on CAF, just Yevgeny Sokolov art. CAF galleries. That's work that's available is listed there. I'm not sure if you have to be premium member to see those, like the works for sale. Um, I'm on X. I share my work there. But most of the things that I share are on my Instagram, and I put stories most of the time on there. The videos and
Yeah.
things like that. A little bit of insights. I like to share a little story to kind of a process of how I'm getting to that drawings, final
The,
stages, and all that.
the one benefit to putting art on X is X does actually, the image quality is better compared to Instagram. It shows it at a little higher resolution. So if you guys are really wanting to kind of zoom in on his work, if you go on X through your desktop browser, you get a lot better quality look at the art than you can on Instagram. So that's a little pro tip for everybody.
Yeah. And on YouTube, I'm
Awesome.
here. I'm on here on YouTube as well, and you can
Yeah.
you can find me here. Not sure if you can search for my actual name; it will pop up. But
I'll find you. I'll find you, and I'm gonna put all of these links in the description. So
awesome.
I'll save everybody the work because I know, like, social media and things has made our attention span smaller and makes it so we don't dig for things as much. So I'm gonna make it as
Yeah,
convenient as possible for everybody.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I go
Awesome, my
live every
friend.
once in a while. Yeah, I go live every once in a while and do some drawing.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure to subscribe on YouTube, on your YouTube as well, and I'll be on the lookout for that. But hang out with me for a moment while I do my little spiel here at the end. Everybody, make sure you go follow Yevgeny. I will put all the links in the description, and make sure you follow us at all the places. It's at Nerdy Musings, so very simple. If you are listening to this, you've already found us. I would ask for a like, subscribe, a share. If you are enjoying the podcast, a review would be great. You can find us on all major audio podcast platforms as well as YouTube. And like I always say, keep it nerdy.